Imagine this. It's the year 1600. Queen Elizabeth I rules England, Galileo is observing the stars, and William Shakespeare is writing his greatest plays. Now, suddenly, out of nowhere, Facebook appears, not as a crude messenger or coded letter, but as a fully functioning global social network. People in silk gowns are posting status updates. Knights are sending friend requests. Philosophers are debating in comment sections. And kings? They're live streaming royal decrees. In this alternate reality, Facebook is not just a digital tool. It is a revolution in human communication, breaking the barriers of time, geography, and class in a world still ruled by monarchs and muskets. But before we dive deeper, we must ask, what was the world like in 1600? Could a society like that even comprehend a platform like Facebook? Let's step back. The early 17th century was a time of stark contrast. On one hand, it was the age of enlightenment. New ideas were beginning to challenge old traditions. On the other hand, most of the world still lived under rigid hierarchies. Literacy was low. News traveled by horseback. Power belonged to kings, churches, and aristocrats. Most people were farmers who never traveled more than a few miles from home. Now, imagine this tightly controlled world suddenly disrupted by a network that allowed peasants to talk to nobles, merchants to organize revolts, and ordinary women to share ideas across continents. Facebook in 1600 would not be just an invention. It would be a social earthquake. But how would it even work? Let's pretend the technology already exists. There are primitive computers powered by steam or early electricity, large enough to fill castle rooms. Networks of cables and communication hubs allow access from major cities. Devices are rare and expensive, but accessible to royal courts, wealthy merchants, and gradually to the people. Imagine a Facebook scroll on a glowing parchment-like screen. You could see posts from Florence, Kyoto, and Istanbul in the same minute. People post drawings instead of selfies, like buttons shaped like wax seals. Comments appear as calligraphy. Instead of meme pages, we have illuminated manuscripts shared virally. Most importantly, who controls this Facebook? Is it a monarchy-funded project? A rogue inventor who releases it for free? Or worse, a tool of surveillance built by religious authorities to monitor sinners and dissenters. In 1600, communication was power. If a message could be delivered instantly to thousands, it could inspire rebellion or crush it. That's where things get dangerous. Because if Facebook exists in this era, it would not be just for reconnecting with old friends. It would be used for propaganda, public punishment, religious control, and political spying. Monarchs would demand admin access. Churches would use it to track heresy, and secret dark groups might flourish, sharing forbidden texts, exposing royal scandals, or planning uprisings. So we ask again, what if Facebook was created in 1600? Would it unite the world, or tear it apart before the Age of Reason even begins? Let's find out. Imagine Europe in 1600, bustling marketplaces, candle-lit studies, scrolls, and ink. Now insert Facebook. What once took months to travel via merchant caravans, news, rumors, proclamations, would now spread in seconds. From kings to commoners, everyone with a quill and a connection would gain a voice. The social hierarchy would face disruption. Previously, only nobles had the power to shape public opinion through printed pamphlets or word of mouth. But with Facebook, a blacksmith in Florence could post a viral story, and a poet in London could build a loyal following across nations. The gatekeepers of influence, clergy, monarchs, scholars, would be forced to compete with a sea of common perspectives. Religion would be one of the most affected domains. Consider the Catholic-Protestant divide still raging during this period. A single inflammatory post could spark widespread unrest. Martin Luther's theses had already changed Europe a century prior, but with Facebook, it would have ignited overnight, reposted, commented on, dissected. The speed and scale of theological debate would intensify, but so would state censorship. Language barriers would also begin to dissolve. Facebook's platform, powered by primitive AI translation or multilingual scribe networks, could promote transnational discourse. People in the Ottoman Empire might read status updates from France, forming opinions and alliances never before possible. However, this wouldn't be a utopia. Gossip and propaganda would spread just as easily. Witch hunts, already brutal and illogical, could escalate. A woman accused in a small village might find her name plastered across Europe before she even gets a trial. Misinformation, unchecked, could destabilize regions. Economically, merchants would thrive. They could now advertise their goods far beyond local markets. Spices from India, fabrics from Flanders, and inventions from Germany would be promoted through elegant posts with oil-painted ads. Trade networks would globalize sooner, creating a sort of proto-e-commerce era. Yet, privacy would vanish. Monarchs and elites would demand surveillance powers. Spies would lurk in comment threads. Disguised messengers could catfish political opponents. Trust, already fragile in this era, would erode in digital spaces. Culturally, art and literature would experience a boom. Shakespeare might live-stream performances. Artists could share sketches, gaining international patrons. Folk tales and songs could go viral. A digital renaissance would bloom, not just in Italy, but globally. Facebook in 1600 wouldn't just alter how people connected. It would upend social class, religion, commerce, and trust itself. The world would become louder, faster, and more divided, yet also more connected than ever before. By the mid-1600s, Facebook is no longer just a novelty among nobles and scholars. It has filtered into the artisan class, merchants, and even some peasant circles through public viewing houses, spaces where villagers gather to see the news wall printed on large parchment. These physical renditions of the Facebook feed, while lacking interactivity, create a shared information experience in town centers, reshaping how people understand reputation, gossip, and relationships. Friendships, alliances, and betrayals now unfold in semi-public digital space. Noble families display their power by curating lavish photo portraits and status updates about their estates, harvests, or even ball invitations. Meanwhile, artisans advertise products and skills directly on their profile walls. The social gap remains, but the curtain between classes begins to thin. A farmer may not dine with a noble, but he may comment on their post, and sometimes he gets a reply. Language, too, begins to evolve. The rise of shorthand, emotive symbols, and memes based on royal scandals spreads across Europe faster than church doctrines. The printing press accelerates meme culture, turning viral posts into pamphlets or posters overnight. Facebook becomes the epicenter of cultural shifts, from fashion trends and folk songs to public opinion about wars and monarchs. Satirical like counts or comment wars on political posts create real-world consequences, leading to duels, arrests, or revolutions. Censorship becomes a hot topic. Some monarchs attempt to control content via Facebook guards, scribes and agents who remove seditious content or ban users. But rebels adapt quickly, using coded language and image-based storytelling to spread their ideas. Facebook slowly morphs into a battleground not only for ideas, but for the very soul of governance. In love and courtship, Facebook becomes the digital garden where suitors post sonnets, songs, and gifts. Public proposals appear on timelines. Some marriages are forged through mutual friends or private messages. But scandals emerge too. Secrets leaked via hacked scrolls, fake profiles used for deceit, or status. It's complicated, bringing shame to households. Love now lives both in the drawing room and the timeline. In essence, Facebook in 1600 reshapes not only how people communicate, but who they think they are. Identity is no longer just lineage. It is your profile, your posts, your reach. Society begins to live in a mirror of itself, always posting, always watching. As Facebook spreads throughout Europe in the 1600s, the question of control becomes urgent. Initially, the platform is viewed as a tool for scholars and nobles, a fancy toy for exchanging ideas. But as Facebook's influence grows, monarchs, churches, and empires realize its dangerous power. It can shape public opinion faster than any pulpit or printed sermon. Suddenly, owning Facebook, or controlling its rules, means controlling the masses. The monarchs strike first, in England, France, and Spain. Kings begin to establish royal digital courts, assigning scribes and information officers to monitor content. These Facebook watchmen track keywords, flag political dissent, and quietly ban or delete posts that question the crown. Entire family lines can be blacklisted with a few clicks. Censorship software, developed by mathematicians and philosophers, emerges. It's primitive but functional, able to detect subversive tones and filter language. A single like on a rebellious post could result in being summoned to a real-world inquisition. Facebook becomes a double-edged sword. Freedom of expression meets state surveillance. The church responds. The Catholic Church views Facebook with deep suspicion. Sermons begin to warn against idle chatter, and religious leaders push for HolyNet, a faith-based version of the platform with filtered content. In Rome, the Vatican opens a new division, the Congregation for the Regulation of Digital Morality. Its agents scour posts for heresy, immorality, and satire involving clergy. But even within the church, factions emerge. Reformists begin using Facebook to spread messages of tolerance, equality, and scripture in native languages. Protestant movements explode with new life. Martin Luther might now post his 95 Theses not on a church door, but as a viral Facebook post with thousands of shares across Europe within hours. Rise of the rebels outside the corridors of power. Dissidents, poets, and philosophers seize the platform as a weapon. Using satire, metaphor, and coded images, they challenge corruption, war, and inequality. Secret Facebook groups form, underground societies sharing forbidden knowledge, radical ideas, and revolutionary planning. The line between online and offline rebellion blurs. In the Netherlands, freedom fighters use Facebook events to coordinate protests. In France, nobles sympathetic to the poor share stories of injustice. In Germany, students start feed riots, where printed Facebook feeds are publicly burned or rewritten with satire. The authorities crack down, but every crackdown gives rise to new resistance. Facebook becomes an arms race. Every algorithmic lock is met with a clever workaround. Data as power one of the most revolutionary ideas to emerge. Data becomes political power. Kings begin collecting user data, likes, friends, browsing habits, to assess loyalty. Churches create virtue scores for believers based on online behavior. Employers review profiles before hiring. Even marriage proposals involve scanning each other's Facebook history. Privacy erodes. Trust becomes fragile. People begin living dual lives, one online, one real, each curated for survival. In response, new tools arise. Some coders design anonymous identities and invisible walls to protect dissidents. A black market for fake profiles, encrypted messages, and secure scroll couriers blossoms. By the late 1600s, control of Facebook is no longer just about censorship. It's about identity, influence, and ideology. The ripple effects of having Facebook in 1600 wouldn't just be confined to that century. The long-term consequences would drastically rewrite the future of global history. Let's explore how politics, human behavior, culture, and even revolutions would evolve in this alternate timeline. With early access to a global communication tool, the way people experienced major historical events would change forever. For instance, the French Revolution in the late 1700s might have unfolded on a faster, even more violent timeline. Facebook groups of discontented peasants, live streams of noble extravagance, or viral images of famine could serve as a powder keg for revolt. Social media would no longer just document history, it would actively ignite it. Furthermore, colonialism would be broadcasted and challenged in real time. Indigenous populations might organize resistance movements through posts and encrypted messages. Horrors of conquest could no longer be hidden or rewritten by empires. The camera and the share button would be their undoing. On the flip side, Facebook's manipulation algorithms, even if primitive, could be weaponized by the ruling elite. Misinformation, echo chambers, and targeted content might be used to maintain control, polarize populations, and suppress dissent. We might see a world where propaganda doesn't rely on newspapers or speeches, but likes, shares, and psychological manipulation at scale. The Renaissance, which flourished in art, science, and humanism, might also be hyper-accelerated. Thinkers could collaborate across borders through online forums. The exchange of revolutionary ideas would not require travel or handwritten letters, but simple posts and reactions. Breakthroughs in physics, astronomy, and philosophy could be sped up by centuries. However, society's reliance on Facebook could backfire. A digital dependence may undermine traditional education, in-person interaction, and philosophical depth. Art might become optimized for virality rather than meaning. Fame might eclipse wisdom. Emotional outrage may become a stronger force than rational discourse. The biggest twist? Modern-day democracies might never emerge in their current form. With governments monitoring online activity from the start, surveillance could evolve far earlier. Civil liberties, freedom of expression, and the concept of personal privacy might be stifled before they even had a chance to take root. By the time the 21st century arrives, we might not see a tech boom. We may be living in a world of digital monarchies, online thought policing, and historical timelines shaped not by facts, but by whoever controls the algorithm. In imagining a world where Facebook existed in 1600, we've explored a whirlwind of alternate realities, from power struggles and rapid revolutions to early surveillance and cultural shifts. While this scenario is fictional, it raises powerful questions about our relationship with technology, communication, and power. The core lesson? Technology alone does not liberate or oppress. It amplifies. It mirrors and magnifies the values, ambitions, and fears of the society using it. In the hands of the wise, it becomes a tool for progress. In the grip of the corrupt, it becomes a mechanism for control. If Facebook had emerged in an era of empires and monarchies, it might not have ushered in liberty and transparency. It could just as easily have been turned into a digital scepter, wielded to monitor subjects, incite division, and suppress dissent. But there's also hope. the idea of people connecting across borders, sharing knowledge instantly. And standing in solidarity against tyranny is a timeless human dream. It reminds us that tools like Facebook, for all their flaws, also carry the potential to reshape the world for the better. So next time you open your feed, consider this. You're not just scrolling. You're participating in a historical force more powerful than any kingdom, any revolution, or any invention of the past. Use it wisely.